Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is sure to send chills up your spine, and it's from the incredible mind of Jeremy Eads over on Reddit No Sleep. As ever, please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help with the channel and our community further. Why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. And so, with that aside, let's get into tonight's story, entitled The Blood. Let's get straight into that. Two wolves stood on the ridgeline just beyond the edge of the trees, nearly motionless, blending into the growing evening shadows. Keller removed his gear from the back of the van, conscious the big dogs could cover the 100 meters or so between them in seconds. But the pair, perhaps mated, tracked his movement. Neither moved, and evergreens hid whatever remaining pack members. Emerging from the woods as the dust settled behind the van, the wolves moved enough for him to notice their presence, almost like they wanted his attention. He considered getting back into the van for safety, but the opportunity here was just too good to pass up. Once in a lifetime, really. He let a couple of dogs mess it up, and parked on the side of the road at the edge of the old man's property provided cover. The road was little travelled, offering a measure of security. His getaway vehicle wouldn't be spotted. Even less chance of a curious cop running the tags and finding both van and license plates stolen 2 days before. Rudy's intel, was spot on. Assuming the rest of his information was correct, they would be rich before the sun rose tomorrow. And guarding the perimeter stood an 8-foot-tall brick wall, topped with cruel iron hooks, facing the road to deter curious climbers. No doubt broken glass or sharp stone lined the top as well. Anything to prevent curious climbers from gaining a handhold, taking some skin and a lesson to stay away. A design choice easily beaten with an old US Army surplus wool blanket. Turning his attention to the van, he loaded his gear into a small backpack. Wire cutters, glass cutter, one-handed reciprocating saw with carbide-tipped blade, cordless drill with an assortment of DeWalt diamond bits, an extra 12-volt battery which fit both the saw and drill, a small radio signal jammer useful for defeating wireless alarms, just in case. Gloves, black ski masking, an old-school crowbar with a wedge on one end and a curved claw on the other. Its usefulness far outweighed the extra weight, and he clipped a small lockpick set to his belt for quick access. Most common household locks were neutralized using picks. Now Rudy's intel said the real security, wouldn't be installed until later in the week. Only the perimeter of the house was currently secured. Cameras over the gated front drive were currently offline. The cameras recorded the server which stored the data that wasn't available at the time of install. The video signals weren't being recorded, meaning the images were lost as soon as the frame emptied. Someone would have to be physically looking at the monitor at the exact time he passed in front of the camera to know he was there. And permanent security staff wouldn't begin regular patrols until after the interior updates and server install. And Keller had seen it before. The illusion of security. A show to scare would-be thieves into thinking a place had more protection than it did. And most thieves didn't have access to security company blueprints, build timelines, inventories, alarm codes, personal rosters, and customer databases. And Keller did, through Rudy. He'd never been to jail, a complete unknown to the police at any level. And Keller did his homework, taking only low-risk, high-reward jobs. Smart, careful, account for trouble, and be prepared when a plan goes awry. Most important, don't get greedy. More than one elite, like himself, took the ride for being greedy. And also, Keller never took small jobs. Fools and addicts robbed gas stations. And that shit was strictly amateur hour. Rustling foliage broke his concentration and brought him back to the present. The rest of the pack materialized from the trees, silent as ghosts, moving single file across the road. Each wolf in turn scooted underneath a hole dug under the fence line Keller wouldn't have seen if not for the procession. While watching the strange parade, Keller abandoned his intention to climb, and throwing the blankets back in the van, decided instead to follow the wolves. If they could get under, so could he. Keller waited until after the last furry town disappeared into the tall grass, blackberry and honeysuckle brambles lining the brickwork to investigate. Locking up the van, adjusting his kit and checking his surroundings one more time. Still quiet. Sun set fully behind the hills now. Keller walked over to the hole. Even in the shadowy twilight, the trail was obvious. Vegetation flattened underneath paws, broken and pushed aside by large muscular bodies, forming a path pointing directly at the way in. The hole, roughly 3 feet across and 18 inches deep, appeared a well-worn path. Even the security missed this glaring weakness, or they believed the wolves would guard their territory. It wasn't enough to deter him. Keller dropped his kit next to the hole, and quick and silent, like the wolves before him, he slid through the hole. Staying low, he spun, reaching back, pulling the bag behind him. The drone of late-season nightbugs, emerging to their mysterious rounds, masked a near inaudible scrape of canvas against dirt, and the wolves once again were invisible amongst the trees in gathering gloom. Crouching by the property's edge, Keller took a moment to put on his mask and, once situated, orient himself to the grounds. And through the evergreens, the edge of the roofline, its straight edges contrasting with nature's chaos, silhouetted against the sky of reds and deep purples of a fresh bruise. Of the house he saw nothing. Deep shadow hid his target as efficiently as it had absorbed the wolves. Not unnerved at the thought of the pack wandering somewhere near, Keller moved with grace and surety towards the house. Inside, practically unprotected, a fortune hid. Art, cultural artifacts, cash, jewelry, and raw gemstones awaited his attention. The art and the artifacts stayed behind. Cash was always good. Jewelry and the raw gems could be recut, melted, shaped and changed with no how, or no who. Keller had spent years cultivating the right relationships. 2 weeks ago, he'd been in her place, the Night Sky, a high-end bar downtown frequented by executives, businessmen, and the occasional celebrity, and those like him. People with ability, talent, looking for high-end exclusive work. Rudy traded information more often than she sold her overpriced alcohol. Flagging him over, she slid a drink he didn't order across the bar. Keller picked up the drink. Underneath lay a napkin with the word "office" written on it. Passing the bouncer at the front of the stairs without a word, Keller headed up to Rudy's office, which overlooked the bar. The windows were double-paned, vacuum sealed in between panes to prevent eavesdropping via directional microphones. Must have cost a small fortune. In her office he sat with his back to the glass, across an impressive walnut desk kept scrupulously clean. No paper out of place, pens neatly contained in a coffee mug with "Nightlife is the right life" declared on the side in a flowing script. No bills were out waiting to be paid. Everything was neat, orderly, to the point of obsession. Rudy gave nothing away for free. As she breezed in after making him wait 15 minutes, Keller didn't mind. He drank his Parrot Bay coconut rum and coke, and with a twist of lime, his favorite. Rudy knew her business. "Are you ready to make some real money?" she asked, crossing the room. No preamble with her. No, "Hi, how are you and how's your mama?" Rudy didn't care. Perhaps she behaved differently with those she brokered with, but Keller was a thief, an exceptional thief, but still unworthy of banter. "What do you have in mind?" "Red diamond, various precious stones, and other museum-quality artifacts you deem necessary." Keller shook his head. "Gems are hard to move. Artifacts are even worse. Someone is always looking for them." "I have a buyer lined up. All I need from you is for you to do your thing." "Who?" Keller asked, not expecting an answer. No one you know. Keller shrugged. Timeline? Security finishes install in 3 weeks. After that, it's out of reach forever. Red diamonds are rare. People will notice when one disappears. There's not much press about this particular stone. The Myuu red got all publicity. At a little over 5 carats, it's worth almost $20 million. Most are less than a carat, and there are fewer than 30 in the world. The blood of the wolf is a unmodified red, weighing in at a fighting 9.08 carats. It's nearly twice the size of Myuu. Buyer is willing to pay $40 million. Imagine it. Rudy's eyes sparkled with greed. She leaned forward, cheeks flushed. And we already sold it. Bring me this stone and it will be the last job either of us ever has to do. I'll retire to the Mediterranean and you can go. Rudy waved a dismissive hand. Wherever. Split. Keller's mind reeled. 40 million was a hell of a incentive. At the usual 35%, he was looking at $14 million. 14 million. Jesus. Usually 35 for the blood. I'll move anything else you want from this job at an 80-20 split. Your favor. Why the generosity? I need this to happen. Fast. Keller crept through the undergrowth. The house loomed out of the trees. A tacky combination of styles announcing the owner possessed more than money than taste. 3 stories tall, the upper 2 covered wooden beams. Keller thought the style was called thatchwork, but he always associated it with Swiss Miss hot chocolate. A Greek-inspired portico, columns and all, dominated a roundabout driveway at the front of the home. The place looked confused to Keller, but the owner is a pretentious dick, he thought. Large hedges lined the front of the property, blocking the views from many of the first-floor garden windows. Why have so much glass if you were going to block all the light? Nothing about this place made sense. 2 ostentatious towers, also covered of thatchwork, framed the palatial residence on either side. The effect made the house appear squashed between 2 leviathans. From his vantage point in uncultivated forest, Keller could see 2 impressive concrete wolves guarding the entrance. The owner must have wanted his property to blend into the forest. Trees grew tall all around the home, some dwarfing even the towers, providing ample cover for Keller to make his way to the home. And sneaking underneath a hedge further concealing his presence, Keller dropped his pack to assess the window before him. There didn't seem to be any sensors or magnetic strips to sound an alarm. No motion sensors, nothing. Secured with a simple thumb latch, Keller defeated in seconds. The window slid up smooth and soundless. As he turned to retrieve his backpack, Keller found himself nose to nose with the big alpha male. It stood, one massive white paw on his pack, watching him. Keller never heard it approach. The big male stepped back, away from the bag, and sat down. Keller slowly picked up the bag, murmuring soothing words, avoiding eye contact. A large ear twitched, otherwise the wolf didn't move. A night breeze moved the small hairs at the tips of its ears. And turning back to the window, slow, so slow, don't startle the 100+ pound of tooth and claw, Keller found the female sitting on his other side. As still as her mate, and Keller saw his reflection in her golden eyes. The male chuffed and both disappeared underneath the hedge. Keller released a breath he was unaware he was holding. And sooner this gig was over, the better. And boosting himself through the now open window, he tried to forget the strange actions of the wolves. His hands were shaking. Conditioned air cooled the sweat on his body, causing him to shiver. And with unsteady grip, he closed the window behind himself. The place was truly a museum, a bit macabre for his tastes. Bestial masks lined the walls, glaring at him with savage eyes, snarling with fanged mouths. A large mammoth skeleton dominated the center of the room, stony tusks curled towards the beam ceiling, and tufts of coarse hair sticking out here and there. Other exhibits, blades, books, an aborted fetus floating in some foul liquid, dotted the landscape of the first-floor room in no apparent order. And leaving the mammoth behind him, Keller made his way to the exit. The blood was in the central viewing room, along with a sizable gemstone collection, upstairs, according to Rudy's intelligence. Finding the stone remained the top priority. Afterwards, he could browse the collection for the choicest artifacts. An iron pipe smashed across his thighs as he stepped through the doorway. Keller fell forward, banging his forehead against the hardwood floor. The pain in his legs masked the sting of the needle in his neck. And as Keller blacked out, he heard a voice say, "Welcome to my home, Mr. Keller." Merciful darkness swallowed any reply. Keller awoke back outside, staring at the night sky with no idea how long he'd been there. Unbelievable pain in his thighs clawed its way to his head with sharp stabbing fingers. Pain pulsed to the beat of his heart, which thumped mad, erratic, and foaming with fear. His vision doubled, then trebled, and whatever they had injected him with left a headache which made his worst hangover warm and pleasant in comparison. "Good evening, Mr. Keller," Keller moaned, turning his aching head to locate the source of the voice. An elderly man sat watching him, a bat across his lap, tossing a red diamond hand to hand like he was arranging the world's most expensive game of basketball. And Keller assumed he was the guy who'd attempted to kneecap him. Stranger still, at his feet, Rudy was bound and gagged. "Yes, I brought your business associate here too," the old man said, following Keller's confused stare. "What are you doing? Why is Rudy here?" "I'm gonna watch the two of you die, taste your exquisite flesh, lick your hot blood, and howl to the heavens, 'You are thieves, parasites!'" "Better than being a cannibal." "You mistake my intention. I am no such thing. I merely plan to experience your deaths vicariously." "You're crazy." "I am an academic, actually. A trader in rare and fine goods. However, I can't sell something I don't believe in." "Do you believe in lycanthropy, Mr. Keller?" "Lycanthropy? What? Like werewolves?" His head was pounding. He didn't believe his legs were broken. It hurt to move, but he could move them. For whatever reason, his captor didn't feel the need to restrain him in any way. His hands were unbound as well as his feet. Nothing prevented him from getting up and hobbling away from this scene, other than the fear the man would use the bat again. And the guy was old, yes, but didn't appear feeble. Mid-60s, body fit and muscular beneath the custom-tailored silk suit he wore. Keller knew firsthand how hard the man could swing the bat. "Keep him talking until my head isn't so fuzzy," Keller thought. "Then we'll see how good he is without the element of surprise." "Exactly," the man replied. "Before we go any further, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Maynard Chancellor Carey, and you broke into my home with intent to steal. You would have, what, cut the blood down to sell piecemeal? Its value goes so far beyond money." "Yeah, it's meant freedom to me, early retirement." Rudy lay on the ground at Maynard's feet, watching the exchange. Frightened eyes darting back and forth. Blood from a scalp wound leaked from an unseen wound on her scalp. Maynard hadn't been gentle with her as he'd been with Keller. Early Eastern Europeans believed a person could be possessed with the spirit of a wolf. Once bitten, a possessed person became the blight on the community, terrorizing the residents, bringing death and transforming into the beast. Only silver, blade or bullet purified the poor, tortured soul, releasing them to the devil's maw. Hogwash, of course. Complete superstition. But the stone, this stone, does indeed rumor to contain the power to control Canis lupus. Feel what they feel, influence their behavior, and see through their eyes. Stories of wolves acting in unnatural manners can be traced throughout Eastern Europe. Stories which corroborate the location of this diamond. The blood of the wolf. A magic diamond to control wolves? I was right the first time. The story of the possessor of the diamond eventually becomes bound to the wolf spirit within. You can trace the history of werewolf stories to this stone. You can seek therapy, whichever works. Ignoring the slight, Maynard pointed to the shadows. They are all around us, Mr. Keller. Can you feel them? I can. I watched you park, cross my land, and break into my home, all through their eyes. I felt them run. Why not let Rudy go? Simple. She's the appetizer. They feast on her, and then they run you down. Maynard held the diamond to his forehead, closing his eyes. The diamond caught the low light from the campfire Maynard had built. Wolves circled the edge of the firelight. Keller saw them now and heard their near silent circling. And Rudy's eyes grew wide as the big male darted into the circle of light. He clamped his teeth onto Rudy's throat, ripping it free. And Rudy died, unable to make a sound. And the rest of the pack swarmed around Maynard, ripping bloody pieces of Rudy free, bounding back out of the light. So good, Maynard whispered. Transfixed by this awful sight, Keller couldn't run. He rolled over, vomiting, as a wolf swallowed Rudy's fingers, delicate finger bones crunching beneath terrible power.
Mr. Keller,
Maynard said.
You should run. Now.
Keller knew he'd never outrun the pack, even distracted as they were with Rudy's corpse. They'd be on him before he cleared the circle of firelight, and so Keller didn't run. Instead, he reached into the fire, scooping a large handful of coals and flinging them into Maynard's surprised face. Maynard screamed, a girlish, effeminate sound, tipping his chair backwards and biting at the flaming debris. And Keller lunged forward, shouldering past the big female and ignoring the pain in his thighs. His blistered fingers closed around the blood. A van pulled into a full-service gas station off Interstate 81. The clerk, working nights to offset college debt, looked up to see the van parked in front of Pump 5. Guy could have gone anywhere. They were hardly busy at this hour. Walking to the driver's side, the clerk noticed the guy had a large dog in the passenger seat. Hell, the whole van is filled with big dogs. The driver hands over a $100 bill with bandaged hands. Guy must have burned himself good. And the clerk doesn't ask what happened, thinking it rude to pry. He don't bite, do he? The clerk asks. He does. Well, I'll stay over here. Good idea, the driver replied. Can I help you, mister? Fill it up, please. Keep the change. And get me a soda. Anything with flavor. I have the worst taste in my mouth. Wow. What an absolutely intriguing story. I feel there's so much more that potentially could come out of this storyline, and hopefully the author feels that way too. Certainly got a great setup here. Of course, as other guys and girls, you know the drill. Please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. Well, it really does help both the channel and our community further. Why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. If you're an aspiring writer or would just like to have a crack at things like myself, then please do get in touch with me at the brand new email address as on screen, which is contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope everybody's well and happy this week, trying to get stuck in and keeping fit and focused. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.